Very pleased to welcome back to the show Blake Corbett. He's head of technology, healthcare, investment banking, PI Financial. Blake, thanks for finding time for us this weekend.
Good morning, Mike. How are you? I like that quote too, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I want to talk to you about my shocking stat is coming up, and I don't want to give all the stuff away, but it actually relates to the quote and relates to something I wanted to ask you about, and that's it's incredible change in the media landscape, how we take our media in, and one of them jumps out at me is Netflix. Just as I alluded to, the Ontario government saying yes to a tax on Netflix, a proposal that's now being floated by the federal government. But Netflix in itself is just such an amazing story.
It is. It's one of the global brand names. I think we all recognize it as probably almost as much as Apple and Google and IBM and Coca-Cola. So it's become an important part of our lives. And it's kind of crept in there to a point where it's almost, it's even more important than basic cable to us. I mean, this costs, in my mind, less than a gym membership at $8 or $10 a month. So you're going to cut a lot of things from your expense budget before you cut Netflix.
Well, it's interesting. I just have a son who's moved out to a new apartment, and he is just getting the internet, so he can he doesn't need television anymore, but he does want to watch Netflix or Crave or whatever else they're doing. Amazon Prime announces this week they're sort of launched that in Canada, their video streaming service that's been available in the U.S. So it's certainly a change of how things are coming. It's interesting, though, as you say, I think that's a great point. This is a global brand now. It's been so successful. People understand what you're saying when you mention it. What about as the company kind of thing and the changes it's had from, kind of older television models?
Sure. Well, it is. It has traveled around the globe, absolutely. And it started out, it was like a Ted Turner model where Ted bought a whole basement full of content and put it up on a TV channel in the 80s. And called it a super channel. Netflix started out sending DVDs in the mail, which worked better in the U.S. when you got your mail in a day or two than in Canada where it takes a week. But it's grown to a streaming service that started out with kind of, Friends and old TV shows and second-run movies to now foreign content, BBC dramas, and most importantly, what I think is probably one of their defining features is original content, and real original content that people look for.
Well, I remember Adam Sandler signed that 4-movie deal that was worth millions of dollars to him, but obviously, as you say, it's been a really interesting business model. They've had a lot of successes, on that original series approach. Orange is the New Black. I'm trying to think, House of Cards was another biggie there, but they have their whole list, and that seems to be growing.
Indeed, and actually the seminal event for Netflix was House of Cards. Netflix did several things with that completely changed the fabric of television for all of us. The first thing they did is they paid up huge for that. But the Kevin Spacey, who's not only the main actor in it, but the executive producer of that show, Netflix had to outbid HBO and other networks for it. But what Netflix did to win that was they said, we're not just going to fund a pilot and see how it does. We're going to fund the entire first season. And the reason they did that was because what we all now know as binge watching TV, but they allowed that whole first season of House of Cards to be available to anybody from day one. And when it became very popular, they did the same thing with season number 2. So with a free, 1 month, free membership of Netflix, you could sign up, you could binge watch their number 1 show, and then turn the thing off without paying them a dime. That was a big risk, but it paid off.
It's fascinating. What do you think of then? I mean, obviously, the company's is so promising and has had a very, very strong track record. But what do you think of the stock?
So the stock is an interesting. I used to put it in the category of Amazon and Tesla, and those are stocks that I use the service regularly or own the product, but I do not own the stock at 100 and something times times earnings. What's changed in the last little while, and I don't own Netflix yet, but I've been taking a close look at it because one of the things that Netflix has done or has demonstrated that's important from a stock perspective is they've demonstrated that they have pricing power. We all used to pay $8 a month, and that was flat rate for everything. but there might have been several people signing into the same Netflix ID, using it, and one person was paying the $8. They've put a cap on that now. And in my household, with 2 adults and 3 kids, actually it would be 6 if the dog had his own access to Netflix. But there could be 5 people streaming Netflix at one time, and that means I pay $12.99 or $13 a month. So they've parsed their pricing, and they're inching it up. And with the enormous base of subscribers that they have, with the attraction that they have with their original content, they're able to nudge it up slowly, and that pricing power is quite valuable.
But it is interesting, though, on that basis, is that because they produce this unique content that's found an audience that's very popular, that gives you that pricing power. I can't say, well, I can go get that somewhere else. And I by the way, Crave TV seems to have discovered that. They've had a pretty strong hit with this thing, half-hour comedy show called Letterkenny, and I think they were blown away by it. But now that's their main promotional tool is, they have a new season of Letterkenny starting. And it's the same thing. It gives them a little more, obviously to bring in more customers, but it also gives them a little pricing power when Netflix has had that stable of successful original drama that you can't get anywhere else.
It is, and size and externalities are the one thing that allow that. Crave might actually stick around because of things like that. Show Me and a few others that wanted to be, Me Too networks are shut down. They just can't keep up. It costs a lot to buy, own, and license international content or a large enough library of content to attract people. And you're not going to have 3, 4, 5 of these services. You're going to have one good one, and maybe a supplement. The other thing that Netflix has done, which I have a friend who's in the movie business, and he's a director making U.S. productions up in Canada here, and every once in a while he'll do a Netflix production. And he says it's a completely different exercise. They have the ability to I don't know if you've noticed, but when I was watching Stranger Things, I looked at the episode length, and sometimes it was 42, 43 minutes, sometimes it was 53, 56 minutes. Yeah. And what that director told me was, he said, you don't realize how powerful that is. When you go and shoot a network drama like Once Upon a Time or something like that, and you shoot all the things that need to be shown for that episode according to the script, and you come out at 56 minutes, he said, you got a big problem. You got to get it down to 42 minutes. You might have to reshoot some stuff, cut this, cut that, cost money and time and effort. He said on Netflix, 56 minutes, they say, okay, 56 minutes, that's great.
Interesting stuff. Blake Corbett is head of technology and healthcare investment banking at PI Financial. I got to take a break, so I want to take it now because I want to get into several other things. Some of the stocks that he's following, what picks he has from the big space, but also some very interesting opportunities in that small cap kind of place. I'll do that with Blake when we come back right here on the Money Talks Network. Blake Corbett is head of technology and healthcare investment banking at PI Financial. Blake, we're going to have to go a little full Barbara Walters on you, and I want to throw some stuff out and get some ideas from you. Give me a couple of the large cap stocks that you're looking at.
So some of my big cap favorites are Google, Microsoft, and I got some other weird and crazy ones. But Google is when people talk about big data and artificial intelligence, there is nobody in a better position than Google. The only one who comes close is Facebook. This is a stock that I kind of look for opportunities to buy it on dips. It's not outrageously priced. It's big. It's an $810 U.S. price. Nominally, it's 26 times earnings on a trading basis, but it's got growth, it's got pricing power, and it is probably one of the best names you can buy in the tech space.
Let's go to Microsoft.
Microsoft, I like. I've owned it for a little while. It's actually come on a little bit in the last quarter because over the last several quarters, the new CEO Satya Nadella has shifted the company very successfully from selling software on a one-time basis, to the software as a service model where you buy Office 365, you pay an annual fee or a monthly fee for it, and you access it anywhere you want. That shift in the model is very, very valuable for Microsoft and Microsoft shareholders. It hasn't had a huge EPS growth in the last little while, but it does pay a nice fat dividend that has continued, and I think this is just another name in the tech space that is a little older than Google, but has successfully transferred into this recurring revenue model.
Give us one. You said you have a couple of weird ones, so give me one of those.
A couple of crazy ones. Most people, I mean, we look at Asia a lot these days, and a name that stands out in Asia is a company called Tencent Holdings. This, for those that don't know what it is, in China they didn't allow Facebook and Google to set up there. They controlled that. Tencent is their, and Amazon for that matter. Tencent is originally their Facebook. It's grown. They own WeChat and a number of other things, but they're also the largest gaming platform in the country. 700 million subscribers. People play games over their computers and their mobile devices in China, and it's a powerful platform in that respect.
There's a few things out there. Well, it's the Christmas season, so haven't we all been inundated with things like augmented reality or virtual reality? I mean, where's that at from a business point of view?
It's been coming on. I'm old enough to remember virtual reality in the '80s, which was kind of clunky and almost a little bit silly and didn't catch on. It really seems to be catching on now. I've seen it everywhere. We've gone from a few years ago having one player, the Oculus Rift, which was bought by Facebook, to having 10 or 12 different offerings, HTC Vive and others. I was walking by the Microsoft store yesterday, and there was somebody standing there with a headset on, with and two things in their hands, standing inside a game. I shouldn't say playing a game, standing inside a video game and playing it in an immersive environment. It's taking over. That's virtual reality, kind of where you wear a big headset, and those will get slimmer and faster and more interesting in time. But augmented reality is like most people come across it with Snapchat, where you look at the phone and it puts a pair of ears and a tongue and things like that, or Pokemon Go. And these things are applications of rather sophisticated technology that are creeping into everything we do, and we're going to see them in industrial settings. We're going to see them in game settings as well.
And the other one that we follow all of those, by the way, but artificial intelligence, I think just it's very tough for us to grasp the implications of this.
Yeah, this is creeping up on us. We talked about it a lot. There have been movies about it. There's more and more talk about it these days. But, where we touch artificial intelligence most often on a daily basis is Siri and on your iPhone or Google Now. I like to call her Google Girl. But you hit a microphone and you ask it a question in plain text and you get an answer. Generally, it's a pretty good hit. It's not always 100%. The users get better at asking the question in the right way, and the computers get better at delivering an answer. But Microsoft has Cortana, and probably the most interesting one is Amazon has Alexa, and these are now becoming, and are going to become more so, our virtual personal assistants, and that's where we're going to see AI to begin with. They're going to make appointments for us. They're going to notice our behavior, and they're going to say, "Oh, do you need me to make that appointment for you? Because you haven't put an entry in your calendar. Why don't I do that for you? You're going to talk to Mike Campbell tomorrow morning. Why don't I put that in there with a reminder 15 minutes in advance?"
Yeah, incredible. I will not go there, but I will point it out. It's interesting how many of these services are female. That's the voice you're getting, that they've put a gender on it.
That's actually, I guess there's some science behind that. I've noticed the same thing. My wife has changed her Siri to a man with an English accent. She's from England, so I don't know what that says, but
yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Yeah, I got to get going to this very, very quickly. Give me some small caps.
There's some really tiny names out there. There's some medium-sized. TO Networks has always been one of my favorites, a Vancouver-based company in the tech space that has done I would describe them as just being absolutely flawless in their acquisition execution. They've bought large companies, tripled the size of the firm itself with these acquisitions, and their execution on those acquisitions has been flawless. Not a lot of companies can buy somebody else in size and come out of it every single time with an accretive result to shareholders. So that's a management team to follow. That's a stock to own, and one I like a lot.
Any others there?
Well, if I wanted to be a little bit crazy, there's a tiny little name on the that trades in Vancouver called Capstream. It's interesting following this discussion on video games. It's the majority owner of a Chinese video game company. It used to be called Epic Games China. A lot of people remember Epic Games from making Gears of War. Well, the main part of Gears of War 4 was actually built by these guys in China. It's run by an American guy from who now lives in Shanghai and runs a video game studio where they teach young kids who have to apply for a night school to learn how to build video games, and then they pick the best out of those to come work for them downstairs in the main video game studio. They actually have a deal with Tencent, so that's why I like it. They've built a big game that is going to launch in 2017, and it'll be launching on Tencent's platform. Most video game companies, you can build a great game, but if you don't have distribution, it's not worth anything, really, if nobody ever gets to see it and buy it.
Very consistent with other media, by the way. Write a great book, but if people don't see it, it's interesting stuff, though. I mean, the change that we're asked to absorb, I was talking earlier today about how Uber just all of a sudden started to test self-driving cars in San Francisco this week, where the state of Michigan actually put in some regulations around self-driving. But it's an example of, I think that's an incredibly key sector for the kind of work I do, because it's going to have such massive disruptive capabilities. You know, the Amazon delivering by drone this week, its first, completely automated drone delivery. And, I think of the people employed in trucking and the related services, or in taxis, et cetera. I mean, it just takes all my time just to try and tread water in this sphere.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful with that subject, because it's my favorite subject too, and we could
is it? Yeah,
an entire day on it. But it is true. We're seeing it creep in a lot of ways. Where we're going to start to see it, I think, we'll see fully autonomous vehicles in campus environments or on fixed routes, things like that. But I've even seen a video. I mean, like you, I'm trying to keep at the front end of this, and I've seen a video recently of a Tesla Model X. It was a time lapse video of a driver with his hands on his knees, his feet not on the pedals, and the car, you can see out the front, you can see the steering wheel and out the front, and this vehicle drives a route on it stops at stop signs, it goes around a cyclist, it merges into traffic, it makes left turns, right turns, everything that I don't even know where you can get that, but it's not on a regular Tesla right now. That's generally for highway driving, and it is incredible what this car can do. If that begins to happen, the next step is communication amongst the cars. Once the cars are talking to each other, whether there's a driver in it or it's autonomous, then the information becomes clear. What the cars, the autonomous vehicles can see now with their sensors and their cameras is pretty limited.
I've got to leave it at that, Blake. That is a subject I want to get your word. We're going to talk about it, you and I, on air soon.
Excellent.
Blake Corbett, great stuff. Head of Technology and Healthcare Investment Banking, PI Financial.